I'm Sarah Van Steinberg, and this is my God story. 2 summers ago, Casey brought up this opportunity in March that we could go to Guatemala. A few years earlier, they had made another trip to Guatemala, and ever since then, I wasn't old enough to go at the time, but ever since then, I was like, I'm going, I want to go. And when he announced that, my heart just dropped, and I was so excited, and I knew I was gonna go. Last spring break, we were ready to go to Guatemala, and that morning I woke up, and I was just so excited, and I had all my bags packed, and I was ready to go. And my friend texts me and says, we're praying for you. And I later found out that our flight had been canceled and that we could not catch another flight out of Wichita until 2 days later. So we met at the airport, and we decided that we would try to drive to Dallas to make our connection flight, which was really risky, but we were like, well, maybe it'll happen. So we start driving down to Dallas, and about an hour outside of Dallas, we realized we aren't gonna make it. And we actually had a parent on the phone all day with the airline trying to hold it, and they wouldn't hold it. And I was just crying. I was so upset. I didn't know why God, had canceled our flight and why it had not worked out. But the adult leaders just kept reminding us, this is all in God's timing. And at that point, I didn't care. I was just upset, and I didn't want to hear that. I just wanted to wallow in my misery. So the next day we met at the church to try to see what kind of service we could do right here in Wichita. And we actually ended up helping out in an organization called World Impact, and they do a lot of missionary work right here in Wichita. And we helped out at this thrift store that they had just opened. And the cool part about it was this thrift store was actually down in a part of Wichita that had a high Hispanic population. So it was kind of cool the way that God worked in that, and how we were going to go to Guatemala, which is all Hispanic, and how he worked us into the Hispanic community. So we helped unbox things, put them on shelves, price items. The gentleman that owned the store is just really grateful. And he kept telling us, we needed you. It's so crazy how God worked through this. And I finally realized at that point that God really did use us in that situation. So a few days later, we got on our flight to Guatemala, and we got there. And I was just so ready to go change or to help these kids know about Jesus. And I thought that I was going to go in and change these kids. So I got off the bus, and these kids just ran to me, and they acted like they'd known me for their whole lives. And I played with, we played with them. We helped build a road. But in the end, I realized that I didn't change I may have made these kids see Jesus through me, but in the end, they changed me. So after going through this whole experience, I realized that God has a time for everything. He knew what he was doing when our flight got canceled. He knew what he was doing when he made me fall in love with Balcones de Pili in Guatemala. And he knows what he's gonna do with me in the future. Looking back on this whole experience, I would not have changed a thing. I don't know if we wouldn't have had our flight canceled, if I ever would have gotten this concept of God's timing down. And I really thank God for that now, and that he provided that opportunity, and he provided that lesson that I could learn. And so I realized through this whole thing that God's timing is for a reason, and that I should never question it, because in the end, it's all gonna work out to his will.